That's DJ Kell. Ain't no stopping us. Hey, welcome everyone to another episode of Groove Swing Speaks. Hey, we come to you. And I'm getting a little background noise. I'm not sure where it's coming from. But anyway, each and every Tuesday, 4 p.m. on the West Coast, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Central, and 5 p.m. you guys out there in the Mountain Time Zone. So welcome. I'm so excited tonight. We have a very, very special guest. And I was reading her resume earlier. And I generally read the resume of our guests that come on, but it was so extensive. I said that will take about 10 minutes. So I'm going to let her introduce herself in a second. But let's bring on our panelists. Sergeant Clayton Brown, how are you? Okay. Okay. I know it is on top of your computer. Mute that mic on that computer there.
How about that?
Let's do this. How about this?
Turn up the speaker there.
Turn up the speaker.
And we get that fixed.
And we get that.
We'll get that worked out for you in a second.
We'll get that worked out for you in a second. So anyway, let's welcome Tiffany. Hey, Tiffany, how are you?
Hello, everyone. How are you guys?
Okay, we're doing great. And so anyway, and our special guest, Coach Shaquan. Coach Shaquan, I've read a lot about you. I'm so excited to have you on, and welcome to Groove Swing Speaks. So instead of reading your bio, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and what do you do and what motivates you to do and continue to do what you're doing?
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for inviting me and having me to join your show today. My name is Coach Shaquan, and I study how people communicate, connect, and show up in personal and professional relationships. I am a certified life and relationship coach, have been out of the corporate space for 12 years now, exclusively coaching around self-awareness, mindset. And the biggest piece that I'm most known for is my coaching curriculum and framework called Check Your BS, where BS stands for belief system, in helping clients, particularly women between the ages of 35 and 52 is usually the range of clients that I see, really explore the belief systems that they've created and how they are impacting how they show up from the bedroom to the boardroom and everywhere in between.
Awesome. Nice.
And there's a lot to unpack. There's a lot to unpack. Test your mic there, Clayton.
Mic check.
Oh, you're great now. All right, Tiffany. Wow. Like I said, there's a lot to unpack. I'm smiling here because I have a lot of questions, but I'm going to let you go first.
Okay. Well, it is a pleasure in meeting you. One of my first questions would be, how did you get started on that journey? How did you go from corporate to where you are now? Like, what pushed you there? Was it an epiphany you had, a dream you had, or was it something like, oh, I'm just tired of this? Like, this is not fulfilling for me?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say it's a combination of all three. I was working in corporate America for the largest Black-owned technology firm that's headquartered here in St. Louis, Missouri. And after getting married, having my second son, I just felt like there was more to life. I felt like there was something that I was missing. And I'm a Christian and make no apologies about that. So it's for me and the humans in my house, we serve the Lord. Okay. And so having that that push into really discovering what purpose is, I wanted to explore. And so I thought I wanted to focus on counseling. I was going to go back and get a master's in counseling. And I realized I got a whole husband, like this mortgage, these, daycare bills. I'm like, I can't afford to go back to school right now. And so honestly, it was the algorithms in the, how you're searching, and all of a sudden life coaching came up, and I had never heard of it before. Again, this was about 2012. And I started exploring a little bit more and found 3 programs that I thought would be a good fit. I didn't know that people actually did that for a living. And I
Mhm.
sat on the program that I really wanted to do for over a year because the initial investment was going to be right about $10,000. And I'm like, who got $10,000 laying? Like, I don't
Right,
have $10,000 laying around. And
right,
so I put it off. And after another year of really feeling the pressure of the job, I was underperforming, and so it was a lot of pressure about my work performance, and I was having panic attacks, and my marriage was being impacted. I didn't enjoy motherhood. Again, I was a horrible employee by this time, and I finally had she's my cousin friend. I call her my cringe. She said, "Well, you're complaining so much. Why don't you do that coaching program?" And I was like, because nobody has $10,000 laying around. And she said something to me that really pushed me, which was, if you don't invest in yourself, who else will? And
right.
that statement alone was enough for me to move forward. I had a conversation with my husband. I enrolled in the coaching program in January of 2013. Went for my first weekend module in March of 2013. And shortly after I arrived that next week back to work, it was like, I'm sitting in HR's office and they're like, "So we don't think you want to be here anymore." And I'm like, "Wait, I can't leave it. I can't. It's a good government job. My mama told me to keep my good job. I can't just,
Right, right.
leave." And as again, it purpose driven, and as God would have it, we were able to walk away and have a mutual agreement that it was probably time for me to look elsewhere. And so I like to say I was an employee on Monday and I was an entrepreneur on Friday.
Right.
And the rest is her story.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Wow, that's amazing how quickly things can happen. And also, to the point of where it seems as though you were being pushed to go in that direction, with everything that was happening,
Yeah.
your marriage being impacted, the lack of joy in motherhood. And it was like stuff was just piling up, piling up. And sometimes one thing that I do know that God has a way, if you don't step out there, he will set stuff up for be like, okay, you're not listening or moving quick enough. So let me help you.
Yes.
And things become like so uncomfortable for you that you be like, you have no other choice
Yeah.
but to move. But that can be very inspiring for someone out there.
One of the things I like to say, and thank you, Tiffany, you bring up exactly what I was experiencing. And one of the lines that I have said to myself, and I also share with others, is sometimes they, and you can fill in the blank with whoever they is, right? Sometimes they will do for you what you don't have the courage to do for yourself. And so I spent a lot of time blaming them, right? My former manager and the job. They did this, they did that, and I'm like, yeah. And in some way, God was like, well, I had to position them to do those things so that otherwise it would be 25 years this year if I were still at that company, and I probably still would be sitting there complaining and not really living the purpose driven life that God has called me to live.
Wow. Wow.
Okay.
Well,
Clayton.
Right on. Well, good evening, Coach. If I may call you
Oh,
Coach.
you may. Thank you.
Hello. Yes, absolutely. You earned that. And
Thank you.
I must say thank you for what you do because we need more of that. And it seems like you found what everybody actually is looking for. And to answer to that question, what are we doing
Yeah.
as people? A lot of us ask that question, how are you living? What is our purpose? And I understand what you were saying because William, who happened to be my older brother, we was just having pretty much the same type of conversation before we came on air, talking about being an individual, being unique, wondering what your purpose is as opposed to what they say.
Yeah.
If they start telling me what I should be like, I may as well fold and be like them.
Yeah.
So I see what you're saying, and we need more coaches like you because we are losing ourselves out here.
Mhm.
and we're chasing this and chasing that, hearing this and hearing that, and next thing you know, we lost ourselves in all this fog, and we don't know how to get back on track.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I appreciate having coaches and teachers such as you to step in that gap and teach those, because we all have to play that part. And I didn't particularly have a question because I see what you're doing and I appreciate your work. But I just wanted to say thank you for what you do as a coach, a life coach, inspirational coach, and just putting people back on that track to say, hey, I have to answer to what I'm supposed to be doing out here and not hearing all that noise that's going around. So I appreciate you, Coach. And I'm going to pass this back on to William.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Right. Hey, great. But I do have a question. Before I ask my question, I just wanted to point out something that many people overlook. And something I was reading about in your bio, which really struck me, and it touches to the heart of the matter. And it talks about how you teach coaches and teachers and speaks on how to reduce stress. I'm going to hold on. That's Brother Robert Hicks.
Yes.
He'll be joining us shortly. How to reduce stress, fear, self-doubt to create space for clarity, confidence, and meaningful connection. Let's talk about this a little bit. Reducing stress. And the things that I just named, all these are killers to avoid success.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And so
Yes,
talk to us a little bit on, and I want you to address this because this is vitally important to our well-being. And think about, why are people depressed? Why are they depressed? How come they feel down? And because of the things you just mentioned. Talk about some of your techniques, if I may ask, on, and one or two things you would tell someone on about how to de-stress, how to reduce your stress.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The thing that you said that really struck me was the word depressed. If anybody knows me, if any client, if we've been in a coach client, if you heard me speak, and that word comes up and I ask someone to describe how they're feeling and they say I'm depressed, my first question is, have you been diagnosed by a medical professional? Because what happens is that we use that word, and the formula is thoughts create feelings, feelings create emotions, emotions create actions. So what you think becomes what you do. And so if you think I'm depressed, then you do things, right? You end up having a sense of inaction, a sense of lack of motivation, a sense of not having worth and value for yourself. And we want to respect the fact that depression is a mental, right? An imbalance in mental wellness. And so we want to make sure that we're not using that word if we've not been medically diagnosed. Because again, if you tell yourself you're depressed, then you kind of give yourself an out without having to do the work. One of the things that Clayton said earlier too about people and just where they are and things of that sort, I wanted to also make sure that we are clear that the work that I do is grounded very deeply and very heavily in Romans 12:2. It says, do not copy the patterns. Now I'm going to put a couple of these together, okay? A couple of versions of this together. Do not copy the patterns and behaviors of this world. Instead, let God transform you by changing the way you think. Then you shall know what is pleasing and perfect and good in his will. And so what we must remember is that there will always be a difference between who you were, who you are, and who you were purposed, or who you were called, or who you desire to be. And so when we get in that space and we are feeling what I call a lower level of energy, in describing energy as either anabolic, which means healing, constructive and success focused, versus catabolic, which is draining, destructive, fear-based. And so paying attention to the way you feel is going to be most important. when you begin to talk about stress. So if I'm feeling stressed, then I must pay attention. Okay, I'm feeling very catabolic, very drained, feeling like I have the weight of the world on my shoulders, feeling like there's something I should be doing better, more, or feeling like I don't have the opportunity. No one cares. I don't have the resources. That is where we get into this process of checking your BS. It's a whole curriculum. It's a whole process of really challenging what you think and the thoughts that you're having to see if they actually have any evidence or any proof on it. Stress is a real thing. It can be normal. It's not necessary. And so we must honor ourselves and how we are showing up and how we are really upholding the promises that we've made. Again, and for those that are Christian and believe, right? Is this who God truly called you to be? And if you're feeling that stress and that overwhelming and that anxiety and those things, and again, you have not been medically diagnosed, then you got to check the belief systems that you created. And it's no longer an option for you to play small.
You know, I couldn't agree more. And I'm going to back this up with something. Since we started this, ladies and gentlemen, congratulations. We're in our 11th year of a privately owned corporate, privately corporation that we call Studio W, which also has another umbrella, LLC, and that's WB Financial Services. But we'll get into that a little bit later on. And let's stay right here with stress, and something else comes fear. And I can see the linkage there and self-doubt. So let me ask you, because why I know that you're 100% correct, because during our going on 11 years, I've had many mental health professionals come on echoing the same thing that you are. I mean, different. I mean, absolutely. It's no question about it. And so one thing that you said is so on point is that if you walk around and talk about I'm depressed, that's what you're going to be.
Yeah.
You are what you think. You are what you be, and you become what you brought on.
Yeah.
And you said self-doubt. So let me ask you. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me acknowledge Brother Robert Hicks. Robert Hicks, I know that you went in and out there for a second, but let me introduce you to Coach Shaquan.
Good evening, Coach
Hello
Shaquan.
there.
How are you
Good
doing?
evening. I'm feeling hydrated and
Okay.
moisturized. How are you?
I'm feeling very
How's it
well
going, Pop?
and energized as well.
Okay.
Welcome to episode
Good to see you, brother.
74 of Roof Swing Speak.
Episode 74.
Roger,
Wow.
Roger that.
Hey, thank you so much. Hey, Robert, I promise to pass it to you. I'm not going to hog this, but I am so fascinated by this conversation and going back to the history of programs, many programs that I put on about mental health. And some of those have garnered the most listeners out there. I know one time we did a broadcast and it was like 35,000 people that were listening in on just mental health alone on Facebook. And I'm saying, wait a minute, that tells me that there are many people out here that are hurting. And so would you speak on this, and how do you approach it when you are coaching? Do you ask, I'm sure you do, I would guess that you would ask that, why are you depressed? What are you afraid of? What have you done about this?
Yeah.
I'm sure. How does that kind of work, and how do you sort of get to people to understand and say, hey, it's not the world that's attacking me. I'm attacking myself. I mean, so how do you approach that when you're speaking to someone?
Yes. So the word, when you say the word that's coming to mind is self-inflicted or self-sabotage. And so we absolutely talk a lot about those two words to have people to really understand that they are really doing it to themselves. It doesn't always feel like that because it feels like the world is against you or people are against you. But truly a lot of the stress and the self-doubt and the things that we experience that are in that catabolic that I mentioned, that draining, destructive, fear-based mindset, are self-imposed, self-inflicted, self-sabotage. And so traditionally, before I enter into a coaching client relationship with anyone, I want to know that people are familiar with the difference between coaching, counseling, and therapy. Because I am very clear on what I have been called to do, and I am good at staying in my lane. And I want to make sure that people receive the help and the resources that they need. So if there's any talk of depression, if there's any talk of those things, I know that that's not something that I am equipped to work with or to support someone with. And so anyone talking about those things, then we're going to look for resources and avenues to help them get the help that they need. So if it's someone else that, again, when we talk about coaching is about getting you from point A to point B. And most often people can see point B, they know where they want to go, they just don't know how to get there. Or they tried, I hear both the word tried, and they attempted to do it on their own. And so part of the questions that I begin to ask is, I want to know where you're going. Where are you going? And why haven't you reached your destination? Because I want people to be able to understand and kind of see that for themselves. Because that's what coaching is. I'm not here to give you advice. I'm not here to tell you what to do. It's to help you to explore the opportunities and the perspectives and the options that you have available to you that you may not think you have, because you have a limited capacity to really see the truth of who you are and the gifts and the talents and the possibilities that are endless for your life, simply because of those self-sabotage, those self-doubts. We hear not good enough, not smart enough. There's a lack of something missing. And when you think that you are missing something, or we go into that self-doubt piece where we are comparing ourselves to other people. And it's easy to do. I can't say that I'm without that. I compare all the time. And then I have to go through my steps of checking my BS. Like, okay, so that's not what I was called to do. There's a trillion billion coaches out there. Anybody can be a coach. You don't need a certification to be a coach. Some people don't need a training. That's fine. My process is very unique and how it has a spiritual tone to it. And listen, above all, I am clear about the obedience and the calling that has been placed. And so if I can help you, right, reach that Romans 12:2, because again, that's the foundation of everything that I do. If I can help guide you there, then it becomes your responsibility to build your relationship with Christ, right? And to really indulge in what he has for you in your purpose, in your walk. I'm simply being used as a vessel to help people get there.
Okay. Brother Robert.
Yes, good evening. And I'll say the technical difficulties now have gone away. So that's a positive. I basically just want to say, I'm reading your biography, Coach Shaquan, and it's very extensive. You probably might have mentioned this earlier in regards to your upbringing, where you're originally from. I was just so basically the idea is, where did you see yourself as basically getting out from the area of procrastination into progression?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. And truth and transparency, it's a daily thing, right? I am not of the belief that you just get rid of these doubts and you don't get rid of procrastination. You just don't get rid of overthinking. It is a true conscious and intentional way of thinking, a way of being, and a way of doing that helps you to push through those barriers that keep you back. So procrastination is one of my, this is one of the things. And so I'm good for saying, hey, I'm calling BS, right? I'm checking BS on that. And what I've learned, because I am also walking this walk. So I'm a show and teach type of coach, right? So I want you to know that this is coming from pure experience and professional training and professional development. And so I did some research on the word procrastination. And what I landed on is procrastination is a way to have a conversation, to have someone to be a co-signer that just tells you it's okay for you to do nothing. Oh, I'm such a procrastinator. Oh, I procrastinate. ooh, and then somebody say, ooh, me too, I get it, right? And so now we were high fiving, and where's the accountability in that? So what if you've created a belief system, right? Your BS says that you're a procrastinator, that you put things off and you don't want to do. And instead of that, what if you ask this powerful question to yourself? What am I resisting and why? Procrastination is a resistance. That's it. And so until you can get clear on what you are resisting and why, then you will continuously use this word procrastination that gives you an excuse, again, to do nothing. So again,
I got
my
a question.
daily walk, sure.
I didn't want to cut you off.
No.
I find it fascinating. So you said, what are you resisting?
Yes.
Why? Could it be the fear of failure?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then my follow-up is, well, what's failure?
I want to jump in. I want to jump in on the conversation because I've been sitting back and it sounds like you guys been talking about me. So honestly, I picked up on a few things and it actually sounded like you was talking about me.
Oh my
I get that
God.
a lot.
Because I do have that sense of procrastination. But then I had to ask myself, Coach, I said, am I really procrastinating, or was it meant for me to move on that at that particular time? Yes, it sounded like an excuse, but the things that I do want to accomplish, I have no problem with going through with it till the end.
Yeah.
And some of those things that I thought that I had procrastinated on, I may have been held back because we are both believers. I'm a Christian man as well.
Yes.
But sometimes I ask the Spirit, is that meant for me to do at this time, or shall I just wait? Shall I just sit back, make an excuse? But when you're ready for me to move on this particular thing that I am destined to do, I will move on it at that particular time.
I've got a question.
You've been knowing me all my life. I'm your younger brother.
Absolutely.
Did I always move and move to the beat of my drum?
Yeah, but I don't know you to be a procrastinator though.
I have. I call that one for myself.
I guess we all have, but what I'm saying is because when I call him, and I'm talking about now, he's retired, well, semi-retired because his wife makes him get out and do yard work and stuff like that. so I call him. He's always doing something around the house.
I have to.
What? Oh yeah, you got a boss. That's right. I understand. But I have another. Could it be though? I have another option. Is it that I just don't want to do it?
That's another thing.
So if I don't want to do it, is that procrastinating, or is just something I don't want to do? Now, I find out now. No, go ahead.
Oh, just real quick before it leaves me, I think one of the things in that Clay mentioned was sometimes, so if we're talking about the spiritual sense of it, we must be very clear if what we are wanting to do, right, is intuitive, right, your intuition, that gut feeling, or is it ego driven? So ego will tell you, I can do this, I'm supposed to do this, and then when things don't turn out, then you check your BS and go, okay, was that really an assignment? Was that my assignment, right? And that's not procrastination.
Okay.
Procrastination is that thing like, hey, I don't want to do it. Okay, well, that's fine. If you don't want to do it, what's the end goal? And could you be out of obedience by saying you just don't want to do it?
Okay.
So again, it goes back to asking yourself and really having that conversation. Again, what is my calling? What is my assignment? What am I? What that thing? Really having that conversation with God.
Okay. So let me say this. I understand what you're saying. I think that if it's something that could cost you in the long run, cost you in the long run, and you say, well, I don't want to do it. But then you have to understand, well, are you willing to give up that you could have or you should have or whatever it is. And that can go into business, and it could also go into relationships, couldn't it?
Yes, it can. And it still goes back to asking, is this what I'm being called to do? Period. And that's
Interesting.
part of when people say, you know, I don't know who I am, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. We are seeking answers that already lie within, right? And so when I say lie within, I'm literally talking about lie as in lay, or lie, L-I-E, because some of the things we believe about ourselves and what we're supposed to do and what we're not supposed to do, they're simply lies. And so really being able to challenge what you're thinking and really holding yourself accountable for those things. Again, that piece of procrastination, it's a real thing. It also becomes your responsibility to ask that question, what am I resisting and why? You know, what am I being called to do? And above all, because this is about service, everything we do in some aspect, who am I calling to serve? Who am I being called to serve? So now if you're being called to serve or to present a resource or opportunity for someone else, we talk about this being in relationships. So when we're talking about intimate relationships, is this the person that I'm being called to build a life with? Right? Because ego will tell you I can make this work. Okay, I got to step into something real quick because I used to be into the marriage and relationship space. And one of the things that I would teach and coach couples on is being clear that relationships begin with potential, expectation, and physical attraction. And most often we get the physical attraction out the way first. Okay. So after that's gone, now we're looking at the potential and the expectation. So then we kind of take that relationship to the next step. Let's just say it ends, we end up getting married. And at some point, one person says, there's something about this person that I just don't like, or I don't know if I can deal with it. But then you tell yourself, wait, the potential is there. The expectation is there. So I can either get over it. I can make them change. I'm expecting them to change on their own, or I'm just going to deal with it because it'll be okay. Those are all ego-driven things because we've not even asked about being equally yoked, being compatible, right? The long-term piece of it. You mentioned, and I'll say one more thing, and then I'll pass the mic. You mentioned, William mentioned, you know, sometimes we don't know what's going to be ahead. Well, that's us leading with fear, right? Making a choice or a reaction or a response or doing something in the present for fear of what the future holds. And do you know where I'm getting ready to go with this? Because if we are in alignment and in obedience,
that's right,
then those fears and those worries and those things don't exist because you know that your steps are being ordered and that the reward for your obedience will be greater than you could even imagine.
And I just want to add
Come
to
closer.
that, if I may. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go on.
As you was talking about meeting expectations, I think that's where a lot of the stresses come from. And you talked about fear because you have a natural fear of not meeting those expectations. And I think that's when people start to freak out. Would you say that to be true there, Coach?
I believe that. I think that we all have expectations which are grounded in our own ego and what we feel like we want, which would make the relationship or the life easier for us, right? So I expect you to be a certain way without me having to make any changes because I don't want to change. I've mastered who I've become. I'm very familiar with how I think and what I do. And so what I expect you to make me not have to do any extra work. So really,
That's what I'm talking about.
I expect you to make me happy.
Yeah, I expect you to do that work. See, I don't want to do the work because I like who I've become. It's not always true. Again, some people have mastered who they have become. You know, I would say for myself, I know when it's time to change when I've mastered that. I know what I'm going to think. I know what I'm going to do. I know what I'm going to say. I know it's too predictable with how I'm going to, I know it. It is time to shift because I have mastered and become too familiar with who I am now. And that gives me that cue or that clue, right? That indication that it is time to move, to shift.
And let me ask you a question, Coach. And so, is that a relate? If you are the type of person and you're going into a relationship after the last relationship, it is with that same attitude, it's destined to fail. I mean, or there's a higher. Well, I'm not sure. Would you say that there is a higher chance that that could fail? Because it's all about me, and I expect you to conform to what I expect you to be. And when and when you go through that honeymoon phase, things are quite different than you when you transition over to, hey, this is now the life phase here now.
Yes.
So things can be very, very different during that transition. When we meet someone and, oh boy, this relationship is great, it's hot, we're talking and stuff like that and things of that nature, but I still have this thing with me there. All right, things going to be the way I've always wanted them to be, type thing. So what's the chances of those relationships lasting?
Well, it's difficult to say because people change as you're supposed to. The person that you meet is different from the person that you marry, and the person that you marry is the different person than your spouse, right? So there absolutely positively is value. Oh yeah, because there's an imposter when we first meet. I want to bring my best self to the table. I want you to, I want all of these things.
That's
so
funny.
That's an imposter.
Yeah. In other words, you're representative and not the real person.
I'm bringing an imposter to the table. Me.
Absolutely. So really, that's who's dating this alter ego of you, this persona, this person that you think will be more valued and more respected and more loved. And then if we can do this all night, okay? Because if we start talking about respect and love, men and women view respect and love differently. Men want respect, women want love. Men will not put up with disrespect. They don't care about the love, but a woman will be disrespected as long as she can feel love.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Makes
Yeah, got you on that.
Wow.
I'm just going to plug in my computer. So I'm here and leave down.
So how can we find your book?
Now, wouldn't my book coach, she would love to be on right now so she can hear you ask me that question.
Well, good.
I have not.
Okay.
I have not. I've not had the courage and the discipline to sit down and write the book. The book is here.
Okay.
And it is in a bunch of
I know it is. Yeah. Yeah, you've been writing it during this broadcast. I mean, so are we procrastinating, Coach?
I think I don't know that I would, there have been times of procrastination. I think now I'm in an overthinking stage.
Okay. And that can happen.
And that absolutely can happen. One of the things with me, again, when I started my business and started and got was certified coach in 2013. Mm-hmm. Nobody knew what a life coach was. So whenever I said I was a coach, they went, "What sport?" And I'm like, "Well, no, it's not a sport. It's the sport of life." And so, especially within our community, right, the Black community, it wasn't a thing. And so over the years, I've watched how it has. It's not a regulated career field in some sorts. Again, you can get certified and be ICF and all of those things. So I think what has happened for me and what I've landed on is that there's been a saturation of coaches and everybody wants to be a coach and everybody wants to write a book. And I'm like, okay, how do I remain in my core value of integrity? Because there are people out here in terms of coaches and writing books, it's about the money. And people are getting ripped off. Mm-hmm. And so me checking my own BS has to believe, right, that who I am, what I do, who I serve, and why is enough. Mm-hmm. And so thank you for
Mm-hmm.
asking that, because I'm very open and transparent about that. Listen.
You know, I know if you had a book, I did that. You know, I was kind of playing around with you and sort of trying to inspire you because it was actually a compliment because if you had a book in the works, you would have put it in your resume. That's how detailed you are. So no, I just did that for
No, and I
I was
need
being
that.
a little sneaky. I was being a little
And
sneaky there.
I
I'll be honest with you,
absolutely
okay?
need that. Yes, I appreciate it.
No, my pleasure. And also because I'm still on that one little well, it's still in the same paragraph, but it's a portion of that paragraph when I came out. Let's see, over 30 minutes ago, and said, Coach Shaquan coaches, teaches, and speaks on how. And folks, I can't emphasize this enough. And we really need to take accountability for ourselves in our own actions. And listen to this again: how to reduce stress, fear, and self-doubt to create space for clarity, confidence, and meaningful connections. That is so powerful right there. And I'm going to repeat this again: create space for clarity, confidence, because the mind can only think of one thing at a time.
Yes.
If it can one thing at a time. Even I'm thinking about something that's stressful or not so good, or I'm thinking about something that's not so good, it doesn't leave room for me to think about something that's better. So I agree with that statement. That's so powerful. I have been since I was the age of, teenager. So I've been in a vocation that's one of the most stressful that you could be in, and that's sales.
Yes.
And I'm talking about commission sales.
Yeah.
And sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and it can go through periods of time when you don't sell anything.
Yeah.
You know, I've had those periods. Then I've also had those periods when hey, 10 in a row. And the difference in the feeling. I mean, there's a dynamic that you guys, if you can kind of understand what I'm saying, because those times when there were no sales coming in, those are stressful times.
Yes.
And then it could cause you to go backwards a little bit, like you don't want to feel like doing it, but you have to do it because the only way you're going to get out of that is to continue. Say, okay, I'm going to do it because there's a numbers game. I'm going to win. And you have to, and that way, and once you do, then you build confidence. You know, you build confidence. I think we talked about this too. And one trick that I had, anytime I got down a little bit, I went on to bought a brand new shirt or a brand new suit or something.
Yeah.
And it worked, right? Because confidence. Let's talk about that a little bit on how to replace that fear that we have in our mind or that self-doubt in our mind. And how would you coach, or what would you say to your client to get that fear out so we can have space for a better day or a better time or a better life or whatever it is? What would you say?
Yeah. Yes. And thank you for sharing that, because that is part of entrepreneurship as well, right? It's about sales. And for anyone who's listening that may be interested, or you're starting off in your coaching business, remember that to be a life coach, or whatever that looks like for you, however you're doing it, this is still a business, right? And so it is easy to get discouraged and to fall back. And you really do, it is very valuable to build that mental toughness, right? And really keeping your mindset, right? Your mindset on those things that are good and great, and that you believe that it's possible for you. So when people are experiencing those self-doubts and those things, I really do send them, right? My clients know, in the Check Your BS formula. And so there's 3 steps that I could share with you real quick. So when we talk about belief system in general, belief system is a group of habitual thoughts that you place your trust and confidence in, and then you use the feeling to determine what's good, bad, right, or wrong. And so we all have a belief system, and it was created from either what you were taught, what you experience, or what you assume. Okay, so those are the three: what you were taught, what you experience, what you assume. When we talk about the taught place, right? If I'm having something that's a self-doubt, if I'm thinking, let's just see, I'll take, when I was younger in elementary school, they teased me because they said I had a big forehead. And so I would always wear bangs because I did not want to be teased about having the big forehead. Well, that was a belief system, right? These kids taught me that my head was too big. And so when different styles came out and things, I wouldn't get those styles because it shows my forehead. And so it wasn't until I unconsciously had to challenge myself on that. It's like, what does it matter? Like, this guy gave me this little forehead, this little big forehead. So, okay. And so then it gave me the courage. But really, again, going through checking the belief system, who taught you that? Right? Really paying attention to the experiences. Your experiences are valid. No one can take those away from you. The gift in experiences is understanding that something happened to you or something happened for you. And so I take the clients and asking these very valuable questions. And then what you assume. I read in a book, and it's not coming to me right now, and I want to give the author credit. She said, assuming is the lowest level of knowledge. And that just blew my mind. I'm like,
that's
whoa.
crazy.
Wow. Assuming is the lowest level of knowledge.
Would you repeat that? Would you repeat that again, please?
Assuming is the lowest level of knowledge.
That's deep.
And again, and I need to find, it was the actress that played the role Molly on the show Insecure. Oh, I can't think of her name right now, but it was in her book, Bamboozled by Jesus was the name of the book. And that was one of the quotes she had in that. And it was something that struck me because when we assume, we've heard all throughout life, assuming makes a what out of, right? The real thing about it is there's no proof. You have no evidence. You have no facts. You have nothing to support those assumptions. And it's the lowest level of knowledge. You are literally making things up that either fall in line with your ego, your insecurities, or your intuition.
And there's a lot of that going around.
And how about your prejudice?
A lot of that going around. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow.
And so instead
That's
of
incredible.
assuming, we ask questions. And so these are the processes again. So when I'm feeling, or if I'm feeling personally, because I am not without self-doubt, if I'm working with a client or just in a conversation with someone and I can hear those points, I can hear the energy, I can hear the catabolic words and the way that they are seeing themselves and saying about themselves, I'll ask them, okay, it's time to check your BS. The things that you're saying, the things that you're feeling, were you taught? Did somebody teach you that? Did you experience it, or are you assuming? So that's the first step of how we do it. And then there's more to it. There is a process to help people to break through the BS, right? Break through the belief systems that they've created. And I said this earlier because a lot of the things that we believe about ourselves and others, they're simply lies.
Yeah.
Right. I'm gonna tell you something real quick. I'm gonna try to do this within 1 minute because we only have 12 minutes left to go, and I want to go to Robert and then back to Clifton and back to Clayton. But anyway, a story that someone told me, and this happened right here in Richmond, Virginia, and it was several years ago. And this black man went into a dealership, a car dealership, and it was a Chevrolet dealership, but they had a section. This is crazy. They also sold Rolls Royces. There was no such Rolls Royce independent out here. And this black man walked in with bib overalls on and a dirty T-shirt and walked over to the Rolls Royce, and he was all but thrown out of the place, humiliated.
Yeah.
Humiliated. Get out of here, brother. He came back the next week. Okay, and walked into the area where the Rolls Royce, it was roped off, velvet ropes. He undid the rope, walked over there, and this salesman came. Didn't I throw you out of here last week? Blah blah blah. He said, "Young man, you want to keep your job." And so it went on and went on. And so he said, "Look, let me tell you something right now. I just paid cash for this one right here, and I've got the other one in the garage. And you know what we're doing? We're not even buying them from this dealership. It's being shipped from this dealership to a dealership in North Carolina. So you better get out of my face.
Wow.
This clown assumed because
Yeah.
of the way this man looked.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
it comes out that this brother owned 7 Savage yards. He was a multi-millionaire. He was bought a Rolls Royce for himself and bought one for his dad. So, like
Wow.
you said, and this salesman, I'm sure he lost his job. He should have. I would have fired him. He missed out on the sale. That was huge. Robert?
Yes, definitely. It's so many people just take a look at people how they are on the outside, and they don't realize the inner gem or the inner power basically that the person has. We're so looking in the exterior that we don't see the interior, just like the previous story. You know, a man, and so even in the sense of millionaires do that. You know, they usually don't dress
Some
up
of them
all
do.
to the nines or anything of that nature, but they also have an inner power that they have in regards to making sure that their presence is felt or known. And that's a level of confidence in itself. You don't have to wear a $5,000 suit, but only have $50 in the bank.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
I mean, that's
Absolutely.
what I
Absolutely.
wanted to say from that story.
Yeah, absolutely. The biases, the prejudice, the assumptions. There is a scripture, and I am not. It's not landing specifically the actual verse, but it mentions or something about being mindful of how you treat people or something, for you never know when you're entertaining angels. And so really having that perspective of really respecting and treating everyone, no matter what they look like or their walk of life or what you know about them, because everyone has a story, and you just never know, right, how you can bless that person or be blessed by that person. And again, we are placed here to be kingdom builders and to serve in a way that is pleasing, right? And our reward will be received as a result. And so making sure, again, creating those assumptions and prejudice, and like it does not serve us very well when we do that. And so it's always valued to be clear. And if you don't know, then ask.
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
Robert wants to know, is that
Yeah.
Hebrews 13? Robert wants to know, or Robert, you said something about Hebrews 13 too?
Yes, I'm reading that, and the verse says, I'll use the New Living Translation version. Do not forget to show hospitality to strangers, for some who have done this have entertained angels without realizing it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. That is it. And that's something else that lives in me, because you don't know. You simply don't know.
Absolutely. And you know, and I tell you what, and we see a lot of this going on, and it just could be someone from another ethnic background or another one race or whatever it is. You know, this is crazy. It's not what's in the book at all. I mean, as far as I know, no, absolutely not. But the question that I have. Well, before I do that, let's go to Tiffany, because we're running out of time, and then back to Clayton, and I'll save mine for last. Tiffany?
I just want to say, I feel like we need to pass an offering plate, because you have been teaching and speaking up in here tonight. Going back to what you had said earlier, what we was talking about earlier about like the fear of the unknown and having confidence and things of that nature. A couple of my favorite Bible verses comes from Proverbs 16:3 and Proverbs 16:9. 16:3, it says, commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he will establish your plans. And then Also, let me just see 16 and 9. Where is it here? It says, a man's heart plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps.
Absolutely.
So when you was talking about, if we were in alignment or in obedience to what we have been called to do, then, fear wouldn't have its place. You might be a little hesitant because you don't know. That's human nature, of course. But it says a man's heart plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps. And the only way that the main way that he can direct your steps is if you are obedient, if you are in alignment. And I can just say you have stepped on all 10 of my toes tonight, and I'll be okay though. I'm gonna keep walking. It's okay.
You'll be better for it.
You know what I'm saying? We just gonna keep it moving.
Yes.
I did have. Let me see. Somebody had texted me.
Boy.
Brock had told me to tell you hello, and Brock is our executive producer. She works behind the scenes, and she is our Shiro. She said that she has always been a superstar, or I don't know, you have been a superstar. She's been a super fan, and she wants to know, what brand of red lipstick do you have on?
So let me say this, and just the history. Born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri, and I attended Kirby Junior High, and so the end of my 7th grade year, the last day of school for 7th grade year, I got into a fight, and was suspended the first 5 days of my 8th grade year.
Wow.
Rock, but I guess I can call it that because I'm grown. Was my teacher, was our 8th grade teacher, and me and the girl that got into the fight were in the same class. And she called us in that class. Listen, she used to have the feathered hair in the front. She was so fly. Do you hear me? Everybody wanted to be like Raquel Ross, okay? And so she sat us down and she said, listen, and basically told us what we're not going to do in this class, what we were here to do in this class. And that was the first teacher, 8th grade, that I had experienced that sat me down and basically told me, what you're not going to do is come up in here and clown it. You will learn. And that is where my love of speaking, writing, reading, all just became one. And so I looked for her and searched for her for years on Facebook, and we finally connected. And I was like, is this Miss Rock? Oh my God. And I was just like fanning out. So I just appreciate that she saw something in me back then that I didn't see in myself. And she truly has been instrumental without even knowing in how I got here. And so just thank you. Thank you, Rock, because I can call her Rock because I'm grown now. Okay.
That's Miss Rock to you still. But she wants to know what type of brand of lipstick.
So I will have to look it up because I was speaking at an event, and it's a Black-owned vendor. She was selling her makeup line there, and I'm always down for a good red lippy. And so I have to go. I can't remember the brand off the top of my head.
Okay, when you find out, you can just send her a little text. Yeah,
you know how to contact her now. Clayton,
I do.
Yeah.
You have a different story. How did you meet Rock?
I met Rock at a community service project that we had down in Petersburg, Virginia, at the Hope Center. We was distributing some food goods to the needy people.
Okay.
And we do appreciate Rock.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But now also you guys graduated, or you guys are alumni of the same university.
No.
I thought so.
I think Rock came from another university.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right. She, let's see, what university did Rock go to? Was that
A&T.
A&T. Okay, I'm sorry. Forgive me on that. But I would like to say that Rock is our executive producer. And wow, Coach Shaquan, that's why you're on. That's how I met Tiffany. As a matter of fact, and in a backwards way, I met Robert Hicks. And because Robert came on as a guest months ago, as we were earlier within our 3-4 months window there, and I think Robert came on as a guest. No, or even earlier than that. and he was so good that we decided to keep him, and he became one of our panelists. And so is Tiffany and my brother Clayton. He is my brother. I've been knowing him all his life, and he's also a groove. So absolutely. But anyway, we were talking about scripture. We were talking about faith, and I think that a lot of it, you have to have faith. You have to have a belief system, and I'm going to say this. My favorite was Hebrews 11, 1-3. Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. But by the elders obtain a good report. Through faithful understanding, the worlds were framed by the word of God, so the things which are seen were not made of things which do appear. That is my favorite scripture. And I remember, like I said, doing my vocation, things of that nature, I had to develop a belief system. Because being in the occupation that I was in, if you don't believe, you're gonna starve. You're gonna starve to death. And so, so those, absolutely. Hebrews 11, 1-3. Thank you so much, Coach. Is there anything you'd like to say? You get the final word.
Oh my goodness. So again, thank you all so much for having me. I truly appreciate being in the position. I just think that it is a privilege to be used by God, and I'm grateful to. I'm grateful. I really am. One of the words that you used earlier that I wanted to land on was the word capacity. Oftentimes we are asking for things, and when we don't feel like God hears us, or things are never turning out the way we want to, or we're running into brick walls, sometimes it's that you don't have the capacity to receive what you've been asking for. And so we must be very mindful that we are aligned. As Tiffany reminded, right? We're using that word alignment. So words alignment, obedience, right? And learning how to surrender to his will and submit to his way. Above all, check your BS, the belief systems that you created, because you are wiser, greater, and more prepared right now than you believe. Thank you.
Wow. Awesome. Okay. Robert put a question up real quick before you go. How can people contact you?
Yes, I am available on social media here on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube, all under Coach Shaquan. I can be reached on email, coach@coachshaquan.com. And those are the best ways to get in contact with me. There is, in my profiles, there's a link where you can go and check out more of the services and join my e-list so that we can stay connected. You can hear about some of the wonderful things that we're doing that you can be connected with. And yeah, I'm accessible, right? Awesome. And I'm happy to help and be a resource however I can.
Yes.
Okay. You have to come back. Please promise us you're going to have come back.
Yes, if there's a welcome
love to have you. And also, well, you have a welcome mat not only on this podcast, but also we have other platforms on this network. We're on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Music, talk, sports, comedy, entertainment, a lot more. It is a true variety radio station. That's Studio W, the Buzz, Studio W.Buzz. Guys, thank you so much. Your participation means everything. Coach Shaquan, lovely. And I will be in contact with you about appearing on some of our other platforms. All right. Would that be all right with you?
That would be perfect.
Absolutely. You. And guess what? We're going to go out the same way we came in. Ain't no stopping us. This is DJ Kel. Guys, thank you so much. Thoroughly enjoyed it. This is the Buzz, Studio W, Global Radio. And we circle the same 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with the finest in broadcasting anywhere.
It ain't no stopping. We on
Come on now.
Down with ground pressure in the groove. To the beat on the mic, 1, 2, 1, 2. It ain't no stopping. We on the move. It ain't no stopping. We on the move. Down